Hi everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Circling the Rabbit Hole podcast with me, Dr. Claire Kinuthia. Thank you so much for continuing to support, for listening in, watching, engaging as much as you have so far. For me this week, this episode is one of those where I sort of have to place a trigger warning because we're going to be talking about loss, we're going to be talking about grief, and I know that can be quite triggering to quite a few people, but I think it's again one of those sensitive things we need to actually start talking about. And specifically, we'll be addressing the issue known as pre-eclampsia or eclampsia. Again, I know I'm speaking jargon, big words, big Greek, Latin words, but this is a medical condition that affects a lot of women. It's actually the second leading cause of maternal deaths, and it's so important for us to navigate and start to understand what it is. And my guest today is one of those people who I think is really, really brave because she was able to turn a very traumatic personal experience into something that is able to bring light to others, to help inform and educate in order to prevent this kind of situation happening again. But I'd like to welcome my guest, Ashley, on set.
Thank you so much.
First of all, thank you so much for honoring this invitation. I'm so excited to have you on set because your reputation precedes you. I've heard so much about you, especially so from colleagues because of the work that you've been doing. And I sort of just thought you'd be the perfect person that we can have a sit down and sort of help people learn, because this is purely a learning episode, because there's so much in terms of myths, misunderstandings, misconceptions around preeclampsia and eclampsia. But before I go, I'm going way ahead of myself. As is the tradition on the podcast, I'll ask you to introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about what you do, and where we can find you on socials. Feel free to plug shamelessly.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
You're such an icon and you're doing an amazing job. I'm very proud of you.
Guys,
let's just put it out
Thank you so much.
out there. You're welcome. My name is Ashley Muteti. I am a mom of 3. I am a marketing and communications consultant as a professional. And I run Zuri Nzilani Foundation, which is a non-profit organization that deals with maternal and newborn health.
Right.
And on socials, you can get me on Ashley Muteti on Instagram and Zuri Nzilani Foundation, also on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So as always, I will put everything in the description box so that we know how to find you. And for those who want to reach out, please feel free. Again, we're looking forward to the comments, the emails, the DMs, so that if you have further questions or anything that we don't address, we can be able to pick it up from there.
Yeah.
So I'll take you back in history, and of course, only if you're comfortable talking about your journey and your experience with this monster that is preeclampsia. Maybe take us back. How long ago was this?
6 years ago.
6 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just paint us a picture of a 6 years younger version of you and the experience that you lived through at the time.
Yeah. All right. So I got married in 2016, and as a married couple, the way you just chat and say, "Oh, we get kids later," and explore these few years.
Yeah.
But I got pregnant 2017, and it was such a beautiful time. You know, I had a good pregnancy, a good start of the pregnancy. But then I started at around 24 weeks. I started feeling unwell, and then my face was swelling here and there, but I didn't pay much attention to it. One, because swelling is normal in pregnancy.
Yeah.
And I really didn't find it as if it was something that needed urgent attention.
Okay.
Well, one of my friends actually mentioned, "Oh, do you know there's something called preeclampsia and what and what?" But as a first-time mom, you don't even want to hear anything negative about pregnancy or anything that can happen to you. Also, because of my background, I've never experienced anyone in my family actually have like a catastrophic pregnancy or something that I could have reference to.
Yeah.
But I remember it was around Valentine's, and actually one of my doctor friends, she had a party, and she was like, Ashley, I think you need to go and check your blood pressure. She's a gyna, Dr. Ida.
So up until this point, just to clarify, had you started clinic? Were you already being looked after?
I started clinic, and I started clinic around where I used to live. There was just it was a maternity facility.
Right, okay.
So for me, clinic, or how I thought, so nice, wasn't like a big deal,
yeah.
So long as
it's
I'm
like
being
a technical
seen,
appearance once in a while through the
check
pregnancy.
How
yeah.
Anyway, but when I look back, it was such a core, important element of my journey. And during those clinic days, when the hospital I went to didn't really pay much attention to my BP because I never got checked.
Right.
And other things, you know, and just check the baby and stuff like that. And that's just it. So my friend told me to go and check, but I didn't deal because I didn't feel sick.
Right.
Yeah. But there's a day I felt pretty unwell, and I went to the same hospital. Now it was around 26 weeks. And when the doctors checked me, they were like, oh, we have to remove this baby right now. And I'm like, what?
Oh, wow. It went from 0 to 100.
Yeah, like I checked myself into the hospital.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling that bad,
yeah.
but I am feeling bad. So we went to, I can mention names of the hospital, no? I mean,
just maybe not. Yeah,
okay.
Maybe not.
So
let's just call them facilities.
Okay.
We can go with A and B, or we started at this one and then went to the next. Just again, politics.
Okay. So I went to another facility. This is the facility now I was supposed to go and to deliver eventually.
Okay.
So I went there, and they immediately admitted me and ran through a number of tests and stuff like that until my BP like stabilized.
Okay.
And I was discharged. Then the same night I got pretty unwell. Then went back.
What were your symptoms at that time?
I had severe headache. I felt like I was nauseated. Felt like vomiting, and I was pretty swollen. Yeah, like unusually swollen. And my pregnancy was not far ahead. It was around 6 months.
24 weeks, 6 months.
6 months, yeah. So it was pretty abnormal. So I went in, and I didn't know that was my journey now to spending a full month in hospital.
Oh, right, okay.
It shocked me because I have never seen someone being hospitalized because they're pregnant. So I went to the critical ward. I was there for like a full month, and they started assessing my symptoms and everything, how I was feeling. And during this time, I would just hear pre-eclampsia, but really I still don't fully understand, you know, this doctor's jargon in the morning when they're doing their rounds and stuff like that and observing me, but I really didn't still grasp the dangers of this particular condition until when I got to around 30 weeks and my organs started failing.
Right, okay.
So they're like, we have to remove this baby. And I was like, oh, I'm happy. I've stayed here for long. So, guys,
I've been okay.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Still not understanding the depth of the situation, because I was prepped, you know, you're going to have a premature baby. The baby will stay in NICU and stuff like that. But I really didn't even understand the NICU and all that.
Yeah.
So I delivered March 8th. 8:24 a.m. to beautiful Zuri Nzilani, and she was immediately taken to NICU. She was 1.2 kgs.
Okay.
And I didn't see Zuri for a day.
Okay.
So I stayed in the ward.
What condition were you in after the delivery?
My BPs were also very, very bad.
Okay.
Because I had quite a number of mag sulf, and it was bad. I mean, being injected and you feel like your body is like on fire. I had a fan in my room the whole time.
Yeah.
And I think I was heavily medicated.
Mhm.
So I just rested for the day.
Okay.
Then the next day is when I went to Niku and saw her, and I was shocked at how tiny she
Tiny.
was
Right. Yeah.
in an incubator and with the CPAP machine and everything. It was not a pleasant sight.
Mhm.
And then there are other babies who are very sick.
Mhm.
And that was really heartbreaking
Mhm.
because you would go to hospital or you'll go to Niku and the baby who was next to your baby passed on,
Mhm. Mhm.
and you're
It's
like,
quite
okay,
traumatic. Yeah.
what's going to happen
Yeah.
to my baby next? Yeah. So the journey of not breastfeeding, but really expressing
Expressing for
milk
Yeah.
now started.
Mm.
But my baby was not able to hold milk because she was going through issues with her tummy.
Mm.
So she only took my breast milk for like 16 days.
Okay.
Yeah, but the rest of
Okay.
the time now she was given other stuff.
Right.
So during that stay, it was pretty bad because she experienced a lot of challenges.
Mhm.
She was that small and she had high blood pressure.
Mhm.
She had edema, which
Mhm.
means she was swelling.
Swelling. Yeah.
And she had a bleed in the brain.
Okay.
So I remember a time the doctors just sat us down and they're like, oh, we're trying to do everything we can. And my hubby was like, if our daughter is dying, just tell us. Don't just come here and sit
Don't
us
sugarcoat.
down,
Yeah.
and tell us you want to talk to clinical psychologists and stuff like that. If there's something that can be done, it should be done,
Mhm.
But I think they were just preparing us for any eventuality.
Mhm.
So I remember a time, which was at night, around 7 p.m., and I was there with Zuri, and she started desaturating.
Okay.
So her oxygen level started dropping, and I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? It went from 90s to 82 to 60. I'm telling the nurse, I mean, what's happening?
Yeah.
It went to 21, then it
Zimmered.
like 100%, and I'm like, oh my God. And she turned color, and the nurses rushed in, tried to resuscitate her and everything, and then she came back. It was so painful to watch that because it was quite fast. And I didn't know what was happening. I just stood still.
Yeah.
Everything was
It's quite
just
traumatic
happening,
to experience something like that, for sure.
And I just remained still. They resuscitated her. She came back and they had to intubate her. So I left the room. They intubated her and everything. And I asked what's going on. It's just that she's maybe having an episode. I don't know. I stayed with her and I just felt this heavy sense that my baby is not going to survive.
Right. Okay.
And I'm a Christian. So my church is not too far from the hospital. It was at 11 at night.
At night, right.
And I went to church and I told the guards, you have to open this door for me. I have to come in. I just want to pray. And I just remembered screaming my lungs out to God and just telling him, you know what? You have to save this kid. There are so many people who are praying for her. We've given her the best care, and stuff like that. And I just cried. I think I just needed to let that scream and
get it out. Yeah.
But this time I was with my husband, so we went home, and I just couldn't sleep. In fact, I just put my phone next to my bedside table in case I get a call.
Okay.
Because I was ready for anything.
Yeah.
I woke up in the morning, April 25th actually, and went to hospital. So I saw her pediatrician walk out, and I was like, Daktari, any progress? Like, she's like, I'm going to see, I'm going for my ward rounds. Let me come back and then we can discuss. And I just felt, okay, you would have given me a straight answer.
Yeah.
So I peeped in her NICU ward and I saw some nurses over there. So I was like, okay, probably she's alive. So let me go in. So I went in, saw her intubated and stuff. And I just went there and sat. I used to sing for her. I used to play some songs.
Yeah.
And I sat and I played some music, and she started desaturating again. So when she started desaturating again, now the nurses now started coming, and they told me to leave the room.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I will join you in a few minutes. It's fine. Entirely fine.
I think, one thing people say about grief, it's so fresh every time,
Every single time. Yeah. And there's no such thing as being stronger or I'm over it now or I'm coping better. It hits you repeatedly as waves a lot of the time. Yeah. So it's okay. Here, you're completely safe space. It's fine.
So they told me to leave. And I went to just the next room. So I could hear all this
the
commotion and them trying to resuscitate. And I had the beep go off. And one of the nurses actually screamed. And I just knew it's done.
Yeah.
So the head nurse came. Apparently, I think she wasn't okay the entire time. So the nurses actually called my folks. Because in Niku, you'd only come, like the grandparents and the parents are the only people allowed to come in. So they had actually called my family. So when I was there, I just saw my mom and dad come in, and my mind was not even, I was just listening to what's happening. And then the head nurse came, and then her pediatrician came and just said, we've tried everything. There's nothing.
There's nothing else we can do.
I think those are the worst words a parent can hear. Because, as a parent, you feel you can protect your child from the immortal, some things. And you're like, why could I not done anything at this time?
Yeah.
So I requested to go and see her. And I was so heartbroken to see they had already covered her in weight. And I'm like, I was just here like 5 minutes ago. I touched her. She smiled at me. I sang. We played music. And then now she's all covered up. So I just removed everything. I opened the incubator. And I took her and held on to her. And let me tell you, I did not leave my child. I held on to her.
Yeah.
Because I had seen another video of a mom who held on to her baby after delivery, and she came back. The baby came back.
Right. So kangaroo care, the body warmth.
Yeah. So I just opened and just held her, and nothing changed, And now my family started coming in, my in-laws. By this time, my husband was not there. So I remember him, because it's glass doors. So I remember him walking and just saw me holding the baby, and he just fell down the floor. It was bad, and he wheeled and stuff like that. Came, who held the baby. Then I took the baby again, and I held my baby for like 5 hours until the nurses were like, you can't hold her anymore. She started turning a bit purple. So they said, we've called the guys from the morgue, and now they're coming for the baby. And those guys came with something that looked like a cool box. Oh my God. I was like, this is where you're keeping my child. Like there's no honor, or, So they took her, they wrapped her and took her away. And now we were like, okay, so I had insurance. We had insurance. And insurance covered like 400 or something thousand. Our bill was 6.9 million.
Oh wow.
My bill alone was 1 million because I stayed in hospital quite some time then. The baby's bill was 5.9
because NICU is expensive. Neonatal ICU,
it's
very expensive.
so expensive, and you're in one of the best hospitals. So it was quite costly. So now starting to think, okay, now my child has died. The hospital needs money to remove the body so that I can be able to bury my baby. That's why I feel for parents so much, and I feel for the healthcare system in general, you know, because every mom, regardless of your social status, you need quality healthcare. Yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
and we started unraveling now the part of finding the cash to take the baby and also to pay off the hospital, and thankfully we were able to raise the amount and get her to bury her.
Yeah.
So in March 11th, we buried Zuri. It was the most traumatizing thing. In fact, that day my husband refused to leave the house completely.
Right.
So we had to get guys to tell him,
Yeah.
we have to do this,
Yeah.
you know.
And a lot of times, sadly, the partner gets forgotten because
Yeah.
in as much as we are trying to be supportive, and something I'd want us to talk about is, as community, as society, we rally around moms
Yeah.
very aggressively, which is beautiful to see, but then we forget there's the partner, there's dad in the picture, and he has also just gone through a huge loss.
Yeah.
And again, you're the first time parents together, you've never done this before, and this is the first thing you're experiencing.
Yeah.
We'll come back into the support area, but just to highlight that sometimes we do forget that there's someone else also who's just as deeply affected.
And it's so, I think also people don't know how to handle parents who've lost a child, you know, because it's not usual for you to bury your child. It's actually the other way around.
Yeah.
It gets quite difficult.
Yeah.
So that was my first encounter with pre-eclampsia and losing Zuri. And let me tell you, I vowed not to ever get pregnant
again. Yeah.
Again?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just because it's such a traumatic experience, you know?
I didn't even think I can go back and, you know, and I made sure I will not get pregnant in 10 years.
Right.
So I did all the necessary stuff
Yeah.
to ensure I'm not going to get pregnant, but I did. I did get pregnant.
What was your health like after? So your delivery, sorry, we didn't cover. Was it a vaginal or a C-section? C-section, okay.
Yeah.
What was your recovery period like? Because again, you're going through so much, and yet physically you're still battling with the hypertension in pregnancy, now postpartum, and then the recovery after a C-section, while at the same time navigating the grief and the loss of your baby. What was that part of the journey like for you?
It was hell. In fact, having a baby in NICU, having gone through a cesarean section, going to hospital every single day, it was painful. It was so stressful. And I don't think I got I wouldn't say I didn't get support, because I got a lot of support from my family and friends, but from women who have gone through exactly what I didn't get that circle, so I wasn't able to resonate or maybe think, okay, this is how it is or what. I was just being told by nurses, this is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And things like that. And healing from a cesarean section I've never had before. It's a major surgery. It was quite challenging. And after the death of my child, it was painful, to say the least. Because now you're dealing now with the pain of having a scar and nothing to show, you know?
Yeah.
And this is something that a lot of women struggle with, in terms of you've given birth, you had a major surgery, and then
there's still the physical healing that you have to go through,
and then you still have milk. So I had to be given meds to stop milk production. It was just bad, and I had expressed for quite some time, so the hospital also had kept milk for me. And one thing I think I credit the hospital is they gave me time to come and pick my milk. You know, they didn't remove it or throw it now that the baby has passed on. I stayed without taking my milk from the hospital for 6 months.
Right.
I couldn't be able to even go
to
the hospital, you know. So going to collect that, it was beautiful, because the nurses made it easy for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the care was really good.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying care after or post delivery. Because once you deliver, that's it.
Yeah, tends to be.
That's pretty
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
The follow up with the patient after
Yeah.
the aftercare really,
Yeah.
really matters.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for the support
Okay.
that I experienced during that period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were talking about getting pregnant soon after. How long after?
4 months.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that was quick.
Yeah, that was quick.
Okay.
I think 4 to 5 months.
Yeah.
After.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was that experience? Because that's nowhere near enough time to process.
Oh yeah. Even
or
heal
grieve
from
or heal, because again we tell you after a C-section you should give it at least a year.
Yeah.
What was that part like?
It was bad. Because I remember crying in the toilet and saying, oh my God, now what is this? I've already I had the IUD and I got pregnant on
From
IUD.
the IUD, right? Okay.
And
okay.
I had already gone for the 3-month test to ensure everything is in place, and then now I get pregnant. And it was so devastating. But I think in my mind, I was like, I can't keep the baby.
Right.
And I had a very candid talk with my doctors. And they're like, you have 2 options. You can terminate the pregnancy on medical grounds, and we can keep the pregnancy and we take you as a high-risk patient.
Yeah. Because you really truly are.
Yeah.
We've barely even managed the hypertension, the BP from in the postpartum phase, and then now you're pregnant again. And as we know with preeclampsia, the pregnancy itself, the presence of the placenta is the risk.
Issue,
So the fact that you haven't even been able to let's figure this out, get it under control, give your body time to heal. No, we're back to square one. That's a lot. That's a lot. How did you navigate the pregnancy?
Well, my husband was like, I think we should keep the pregnancy. We tried, and it didn't work.
Okay.
The IUD didn't work.
Right, yeah. It's like this one was meant to be.
Yeah,
because again, IUD failures do happen, but it's one of has the lowest failure rate in terms of contraception. So sometimes we usually say, okay, this one really wanted to be here.
The pregnancy was, this time at least I knew what I was going through. I was aware of my symptoms and how my body is feeling, and I could take action.
Okay.
Then I didn't understand, I didn't know. And this time I had good doctors from the start. And I think it's so important. I think women, we don't know that you need a doctor even before, or even at the start. The moment you know that you're pregnant, you need to work with your doctor. So that's what exactly I did. And the pregnancy it had issues with blood pressure, but thankfully I was not hospitalized.
Okay.
But at the 7th, around 6.5 months now, I started becoming sick. Exactly the same time I started becoming unwell. I did. And at 31 weeks, we were just going for shopping with my hubby.
Right.
And I felt like I'm peeing. So in the car, and I felt like I'm peeing. And I just told him jokingly, I think my water broke.
Oh no, okay.
And he was like, that can't be it. And I was like, okay, let me just check my BP in this hospital before we go. Because I had checked it at home. I had the machine, and it was quite high. So I just said, okay, let's check with the manual one, because these other ones can be a bit faulty. So upon arriving and I leave the car, I just saw a lot of blood, like blood is coming out. And then when I entered that hospital, the guard said in Swahili, wasichana huingia kwa hii hospitali hivi hawatokangi.
Oh my.
So
out loud to you?
Yes, he said it out loud.
Oh no.
And once I entered the hospital, they sounded the alarm. They took me. I called my doctor, or rather my hubby called my doctor. My doctor was not available at that time, but he was giving instructions to the resident doctor over there. Do this, give her that, get her into ambulance right now. till the major hospital. So that's what they did. And I went in, and definitely the surgery was successful. But my pediatrician told me when the baby came out, she was grey. They had to resuscitate her. And I got my Amani at 975 grams.
Oh, wow. So
It was
even
not even
smaller.
a kilo.
Gosh. Oh, no. Okay.
And I was experiencing placenta abruption, where the placenta detaches itself from the uterus.
Detaches prematurely, because we also have to debunk the jargon on this episode. So placental abruption, like you've said correctly, it's when the placenta prematurely separates from the uterus, and then you have sudden bleeding. And the biggest risk, of course, is now you've cut off communication, oxygen supply, nutrient supply to the baby. So it becomes an emergency to deliver the baby at that point.
I think that's why she didn't have enough oxygen, but it was so dramatic because the ambulance guy didn't even know where this hospital is. It was just chaotic. But thankfully she was okay, and she was taken to NICU still. So there's also that journey of going to the same exact place, less than 1 year from where I was, but the hospital was so gracious. Where my baby was, where Zuri was, they didn't put us in that whole line. They put us in a different line. So it was okay. And this time now we had also our own pediatrician, and the baby responded so well. In fact, she only stayed in NICU for 1 week.
Oh, wow.
And
at
left
900
NICU
grams.
At 900
That's
grams.
A fighter right
so,
there.
by the time she was 1.1, we went to HDU. So there at least the care it's not
as intense.
It's not like NICU. And she had a bit of challenges because we had a bit of blood transfusion here and there, and we stayed in hospital for 3 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Until she was 2 kgs, and we were able to go. And right now she's 5 years, and she's quite a feisty girl.
Yeah, sounds like it from day one, because just even the survival of the abruption in itself makes her a miracle baby right there. Because just experience now being the provider, from the provider side of things, there's some situations, and I'm sure by now you've sort of learnt the jargon along the way, which is also really unfortunate. You can sort of tell moms who've had a bit of a journey with pregnancy, because you learn the jargon. You're saying it so casually. You're talking about HDU and NICU and desaturation. You sound like a medical professional at this point, but it's because of the journey that you've been on. And now from our perspective, there are certain things that we look at in a case of someone who has preeclampsia or high blood pressure in pregnancy, and we go, this is not a good sign. This is not a good sign. So abruption in itself is one of those things that we are running at the peak speed. You must have seen how fast you were on arrival to theatre. It was no time at all, and it's because we know we have literally seconds to make sure we save both mom and baby. And for her to survive she's a warrior in herself. And she must be a feisty one, even personality wise.
Yes. She's I love that girl. She gave me so much hope. That she survived a lot of adversity. And then is when I realized, I have to do this. I really have to create awareness, because when I was in NICU with her, we were like close to 10 ladies, and 7 out of the 10 all were in NICU because of high blood pressure.
Oh, wow.
All given birth prematurely. And I was like, this is a huge problem. All of you don't know, And we went to, and I'm not saying it in a bad way, but we went to a really good hospital.
Right.
But that still did not hinder the fact that we actually did not know that there's a condition like this, which is the second leading cause of maternal death.
Yes.
With access to technology and everything that we have at our predisposition, we didn't. We didn't know about it. And so that's when I decided, what, this needs to start. Women need to know about their bodies, about this condition called pre-eclampsia. And that's where my passion and drive for the foundation actually started.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you named it after your daughter.
I named it after Zuri.
Zuri,
Yes.
yeah. And that's, again, like I said, it takes a lot of bravery to see the issue. You can see the issue, but you can be in so much pain because of your experience that you shut down. And we see a lot of people do that. But for you to be able to then translate this story and your experience into no, let's change the narrative. Let's put some more information out there. Let people understand, because it's not a new condition. We have known about preeclampsia and eclampsia for time immemorial when it comes to gynecology obstetrics practice. But again, sometimes some things only come up when they affect you. If you've never, like for you said, you've never experienced anyone who had even a difficult pregnancy, let alone one that had blood pressure as an issue, where would you have learned from? It's not something. It's also not a word you can Google spontaneously. You just sit there and pre-type, preeclampsia. How do you even spell that? But just to clarify, preeclampsia is hypertension in pregnancy, usually picked up from about 20 weeks gestation. So you're about 5 months pregnant. And the risk factors, you had the one of the most common ones being a first-time pregnancy, and usually it can also be a first-time pregnancy with a new partner. That's also a risk factor. And then usually a family history of hypertension, whether in pregnancy or outside of, but it's usually that you have a lot of chronic hypertension in the family, and then even if you've never been hypertensive yourself, it presents for the first time in pregnancy. And then eclampsia is when it's a complication of preeclampsia. It's when preeclampsia is either not identified early enough, or management is not effective enough, or like in your case, you don't know to go in and have a checkup. You're feeling unwell, but you don't know this is an emergency, because like you described, it's symptoms that are neither here nor there. I have a headache.
Close to pregnancy
I feel
symptoms.
I feel tired more than usual. I have a headache that's maybe sometimes affecting my vision, but if I rest, I feel a little bit better. I'm swollen, but I'm expecting to be swollen during pregnancy. It's just that now with preeclampsia, you swell all the way up to the face, and the more severe the swelling. But now preeclampsia is a complication where, eclampsia is now the complication where, because it's not properly managed, you actually end up with very severe symptoms that affect primarily the liver and the brain. And this is the phase where we see women now convulsing. And you had mentioned MagSalf again. You with the jargon, you sound like a professor of medicine. But MagSalf is a magnesium sulfate, and it's one of the primary key medications that we use to treat preeclampsia, to help prevent. So what it does is protects the brain, both for mom and the baby, to prevent convulsions from happening, to prevent a bleed in the brain, because that's usually what can happen to both mom and baby. And when you have convulsions with preeclampsia, that's when we call it now eclampsia. They're both very, very devastating. Like you've mentioned, the highest risk to the pregnancy is a preterm delivery, whether it is natural or we have to deliver to protect both mom and baby. And then that comes with the complications of looking after newborn who is premature, and the challenges of NICU. You say it because, again, you have experienced it now in those very quick 2 sessions, but it's a very scary unit to be in. The sounds, the sight, the alarms ringing left, right, and center, the monitors.
Sanitizer.
You have to sanitize, you have to really clean yourself, clean anything that you touch. You have to be monitored with how you, if you're allowed to hold the baby, how do you hold the baby, how, if at all you're allowed to feed the baby, how do you feed the baby, because again, it varies from one situation to the next. But it can be quite an intimidating unit to find yourself in. So having lived through that so quickly in succession, maybe it's a question for me, is how did you manage? Because it's a lot also in a very short period of time. And in as much as this second time you're taking your baby home, there's still a lot to process and a lot of recovery, even physically. And there's still the fact that, yes, I still have to manage the BPs. I have to manage my wound and recover fully. And now I have a newborn. And every time I look at her, inevitably, I think about Zuri. How did you navigate that phase?
I think I struggled accepting Amani. And I think my mom is the one who identified that I'm struggling. And I was struggling because I deeply, deeply loved Zuri. I was struggling to feel maybe if I love Amani, I don't love Zuri.
Right. Yeah.
I was struggling with that. I was struggling with I'm caring, and everyone is like, you know, you've got another baby. You should be happy. I buried a child.
I buried a child.
You know,
you can't minimize that.
And not that I'm ungrateful. I'm not. I'm very happy that I have another child. But I also feel this pain, and I don't know what to do with this pain.
Yeah.
And how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And I struggled with being happy because, and I struggled for a very long time. In fact, I was telling someone, I think right now is when I'm actually coming out of the funk. You know?
Yeah.
I struggled with enjoying simple pleasures because I enjoy cooking, I enjoy hosting people. I there are things that I enjoyed that really didn't mean anything
at that
after.
time. Yeah.
And that struggle of how do I feel? You know, how am I supposed to feel with this baby? Yes, I loved Amani, but I was also like, you know, I can't even explain to you, but that feeling was so evident.
Because you haven't grieved Zuri.
Because I haven't grieved Zuri. And we also experienced challenges with my hubby. I'll tell you this, when NICU is an area where a lot of people separate. We've seen a lot of couples.
Yeah, because it is a horrible
it's so
experience.
Horrible, you know?
Yeah.
We've seen couples actually separate completely. And there was also that I wouldn't say beef, but it was just uncomfortable also with your partner because even him is going through his issues, and me, I'm expecting him to grieve in a way that me, I am grieving.
That you can identify with. Yeah,
and that's just not how it's happening. So we had that one. Then we are having the fact that now we have another child. How are we supposed to care? We are new parents. How are we feeling about it? Because even when I had Amani, I was still actively visiting Zuri's gravesite.
Right. Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And it was just crazy. And then people giving you a lot of what is it called? Advice. You're supposed to feel like this.
Advice.
You're supposed to do this and what. But therapy really grounded us. You know? It was like that period enabled us to really get in touch with our feelings and understand it is actually normal to feel like this, you know, and it's normal to feel like you're not accepting your child. Because when Amani was born, I even struggled going to hospital because she was pretty tiny. She was extremely tinier than Zuri
had been.
And we were 100% sure this baby is not going to make it. So we never even wanted to go to hospital in the first place. And the nurses were like, you know, you have to come and visit. You have to kangaroo because she didn't have oxygen. So it was so easy for us to hold her because she didn't have all those things. And we just simply couldn't do it until like it took like the doctors to encourage us and say, this baby's going to survive. She's perfectly normal. Fine. She's okay.
Come and see for yourself.
Come and carry the baby. They'll carry the baby 5 minutes and tell the nurses just take her. Because I also didn't want to get so attached.
True. Because of what you've just
something happened. I was actually prepared for anything. And that's just the worst thing about loss, you know? Like, even when they get sick and unwell, you just tense for no good reason. So that period was pretty hard navigating how I felt and accepting the fact that now I have another baby who's going to live. You know, she's not going to die.
Because that baby needs you now.
I remember taking her to hospital after now her discharge because she was crying a lot. I didn't understand she was having colic. And I was like, I don't want my baby to die on my hands. You know, like we
'Cause
can
now
stay here even
you
longer.
don't know what is normal. Because again, now this is
Yeah.
technically this is your first baby, so you're learning
Yeah.
how to take care of a baby.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time.
Yeah.
So every experience for you is scary because you don't know, is it normal, is it not normal?
Exactly.
But you lean more towards the panic because
Yeah.
of the experience you've lived through.
Mm-hmm.
And that must have been so challenging to navigate.
It was so challenging. And our relationship actually took a really hard hit during that time.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for the support from family that we received during that time and therapy, because it enabled us to really work through stuff.
Yeah. What support just specifically? Because again, the primary aim and hope with this episode is that someone will be watching who has lived through such an experience or knows someone who is living through the experience. But we tend to be a society that's very supportive. People want to be there for each other, and especially so close family and friends. You want to, I can see you're going through something, it's very challenging, but I don't know how to support. So what does support look like? What felt for you was helpful versus what was not? Because again, there's those little nuances, so that we sort of start to understand how best can I might think I'm supporting and I'm just triggering you and re-traumatizing you. So what support was helpful versus what was not?
I always say be present, because let me tell you, you might think people don't see, or maybe you'll just send a message or what, or okay, let me put it exactly how I experienced it. I had friends who, and I think maybe they were not able to know how to deal with me during this time, and that was the end of our friendship.
Of course.
You know, like that was just it, because they were not present when I actually needed people to be around me. And that's just how grief at times is. It changes your whole dynamics of even handling issues. And one thing is, you may not say anything. I remember when I was in NICU, that day was bad. It was such a bad day. And this lady came and sat with me in NICU for like the entire afternoon. Because she said, I'm not here to talk to you. I'll just sit here with you. You don't need to talk. You don't feel the need to do anything. I'm just here. She sat with me and we kept quiet, and there's a time I cried and she just held me and I cried and I cried and I cried a lot. But she was there with me. I will never forget that. You know, because she was present. And I needed that. And I thought about, like, if she was not there, I would have sat by myself and just felt so miserable and all that. But she was there with me. At times, you don't need to tell me anything or to say anything, but you're there. You know? At times, you can't even want to wake up, you know? And there are others who have other children in the house, you know, can come in and just help around. Because also those children need care.
True.
There are people who will take their kids and just go and play and stuff, or maybe go for a sleepover, and you just
to give
have
you space,
that time to yourself. There are times you just come and make a nice meal. And my friends know how that I love making my nails and my hair, and she just took me. She didn't come, but she said, okay, let me do this for you. You know, there are those two stuff that can make someone feel, but being present really is so important. I remember my mom and my in-laws just coming and caring for Amani when I was there, because like my house was like a mini NICU ward. You'd come and have outfits for you to change, no perfume, no nothing, you sanitize, and then you wash your hands, you go back, you sanitize everything,
of course.
you know. So like my my mom and my in-laws were really there to care for baby and to help me around,
Yeah.
So that was actually really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's so important to understand, because sometimes we get stuck on the phase of, now what will I say?
Yeah. And
now
you don't need
what
to
do I
say
tell
anything.
them? Now how do I,
know?
I don't want them to feel like I'm acting like I know what they're going through. So how do I support? But that's such an important message. Just be present.
Yeah, just be present and don't say it is well, because it's not.
Yeah,
I
that's a
hate
hard one
that
to hear.
word.
That's a hard one to hear.
I hate that
Yeah.
word when someone says it's well. No, it's not. It's not. It can never be.
Yeah, and it's okay
you
that
know?
it's not. Let's
Yeah.
navigate and get back to at least a semblance of our normal or a new version of our lives. But let's not sit and say this is nothing. It is well. I find that very.
Just a simple text and say, I'm here. I can talk. We can have a chat. Whatever you need.
Yeah.
That's all.
So just thank you first of all for being even brave enough to share the story of how you got to where you are and how the foundation started and the idea behind, because again, like I said, it takes a lot of bravery to change the narrative or to attempt to create a space that helps other women understand what they may be going through or what risks they should be aware of. But again, even as we talk about support, sometimes in our communities we have misconceptions, misunderstanding around pregnancy loss and the experience, especially so where the woman experiences multiple losses. And we do have beliefs centered around being bewitched or being cursed or you're an evil person and blah blah, and then there's complete withdrawal of support. What are your thoughts with that approach to things? Because it is very common.
It's quite unfortunate. And I also experienced that. I'm cow.
All right.
Married
Okay.
to a cow.
Okay.
So like you know the stereotypic thinking about cows and evilness and all that.
We have heard the rumors.
So I was told also, you check from your husband's side if there's anything, maybe someone has looked at you badly. You can't just be having these issues that when even us, we gave birth a long time ago. Such talk, and it's so primitive. And a lot of women actually have lost their marriages, have been shamed in the community. Women who've because I have 3 premature babies.
Okay.
Women who've given birth prematurely, your child is equated to rats.
Right.
You're giving birth to children who don't even have hair, like they're like 2 small nyamas. Oh, we've had it all. It's quite.
That's so brutal.
Yeah, it's really, really bad what women go through when they've lost children or they've given birth prematurely. It's so triggering when your child is referred to as a rat because you've given birth prematurely. It's so bad. And even in our support group, there are women who've lost their marriages, women who have been disowned by their communities, and sidelined simply because you can't keep a pregnancy. Your baby has to it's like I can only say it in Swahili to
that's
make
fine.
sense.
That's okay.
But anaivia kwa incubator, so like your womb is not sufficient to carry a pregnancy full term. So it's quite bad, and these are some of the things that as a foundation we are trying to educate so that people are more knowledgeable, because it's so primitive to think like that.
True. What work does the foundation do very specifically when it comes now to maternal and newborn health? What exactly is like the mandate or the role that you're taking up in terms of, if we needed to, because again there'll be women who are watching who want to reach out and see what kind of support to expect. What would you tell us about that?
Okay, so I can tell you about our core pillars. Yeah, one is training. Yeah, and training both for women and for healthcare providers.
That's good. Okay.
And
Yeah.
I say this is women to be educated. We have our check campaign, basically creating awareness on the need to attend antenatal care, the need to consider preconception care, you know, and all these conditions that may arise in pregnancy that can predispose you to, you know, such stuff.
Yeah.
So that's like our main thing, the
Right.
check campaign.
Yeah.
Then training healthcare providers. We did a short study and we asked moms where the challenges are in access to quality healthcare and like how they experience. And one of the top reasons was there was poor communication between the healthcare provider and the patient.
Right.
And because of my communications background, we've developed a program for effective communication. So it teaches healthcare providers to actually communicate to the patients in a way that they understand and in a way that can be able to take action and take charge of their health. Because a lot of women said, if I was told, you know, when you go to clinic, you're just told, oh, ukiumwa na kichwa, ukifanya hivi, if this happens, then come to hospital. But I don't know exactly okay,
why.
This headache, which kind of a headache?
It's more serious, which one is
which kind of being swollen? You know, so communicating in a way that is effective to the patient, you know, even post-delivery, because there are women who get hypertension post-delivery and they, you think maybe after delivery I'm done. We have a lady who she was told in the hospital to stop her medication by a nurse.
Oh no.
After delivery. Right now she's doing kidney dialysis and stuff like that. So
because, you do continue with care postpartum after the delivery,
and that's what we're trying to advocate. So we've also hold conferences for healthcare providers with giving them like new information technology that we have, because we have our board chair is actually a gynecologist.
Okay, right.
So we are very keen on ensuring how and best ways we can be able to also equip other healthcare providers in terms of service delivery.
Okay.
Then we also have the advocacy. That's why I'm talking about the myths and misconceptions. Advocating for women and longer maternity stay, for women who have even given birth prematurely. Like I had to resign from my position to care for my child.
Okay, right.
And for a mom who this is your only source of livelihood, what then happens?
What happens?
You
because
know?
Again, a lot of times that maternity leave will not be sufficient.
Like I spent my whole maternity leave in hospital.
Yeah.
You know, so what happens to the mom? Her life changes forever, and you need to take care of your child. Then we also have the support now for women who have experienced a different pregnancy, a challenging pregnancy, have given birth prematurely, and have even lost a child. Yeah. So in our platform, we offer advice.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, there are women who come with a lot of issues, you know, it can be even from family and stuff, but there's that community of support of women who actually understand, and that's what I was missing when I was going through the issue with Zuri. I didn't have a community of moms who really understand this journey of NICU and of losing a child, and I didn't know where to go. So we offer that support in that platform.
Okay.
And I'm happy to share that last year 30 women delivered safely.
Oh, nice.
So those are like 60 people saved.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it's
congratulations.
The highlight.
Yeah, of course.
highlight
because you're already making significant change.
Yeah, because they learn in the group. They learn. We had a case of a lady in Kitale who had a BP of 170 over 112 thereabout.
Oh, wow, okay.
And she was told to go back home. And because people in that group know by 160, 100, you're supposed to be admitted. You are like, you're not going to go home. And women around that area said, okay, go to this hospital, go to this doctor. We're able to share a doctor who by 8 a.m. she had delivered.
Right.
The next day, like
as
8
should have been originally.
You know, so we consider that as a life saved, and through such communication, we have women in 42 counties in that platform. So everyone knows somewhere, and everyone knows, how you can be able to get help. And that's one of like our biggest, the support platform.
Right.
And definitely through social media, doing educative content and doing events. Like we now have an event this Saturday, April 13th, on preconception care.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because people don't understand the importance of preconception care.
Yes.
That's another thing we need to advocate more loudly about.
Yes.
Because just having the conversation for me in clinic where I explain to women that before you get pregnant, you should come, and there's certain things we need to do. There's certain things we need to address. And they look at me like, huh? But I'm not yet pregnant. Why is that important? So I think it's such an important thing to have so that you attend and understand, okay, this is why we want you to come in prior to conceiving. These are the issues that might arise, and we are able to even prepare because some of the testing can show us problems that we can now avert during the pregnancy. So I think that's also a very powerful message. I've seen your pages. Again, I'll share in the description box because the resources that you're sharing, the information you're sharing on social media, it's very easy to understand and quick and easy to share. And I really like that about the foundation and the messaging around the content that you put on the pages. And please keep that up because a lot of times I reshare because it's like I'm like, this makes sense, let's reshare, and people are able to come and see what's going on the pages. I know running a foundation is challenging. So on just for maybe a few minutes towards now as we wrap up, what support would you like to see or what support would be beneficial for the foundation in terms of, now I'm speaking to potential sponsors and donors out there, how can we help? Let me ask it like that. How can we help?
Oh, thank you very much for that important question. But one, professional support. We work a lot with doctors, and at times we have like an event like what you're about to have, and would need doctors, would need nurses, would need midwives to come in and participate. Definitely, as a foundation, we've not reached a point where we compensate because we still don't have like funding. All this is funded by family, friends, and the likes. So professional support, volunteer support, definitely. There are very different arms in a foundation that have to run. I can't do it by myself. We have a very small team, but definitely we also need like volunteers to support. Then we also have financial support. When I started doing this is when I realized there's so much need, and that's why we can't stop. The fact that every woman still cannot access quality care is heartbreaking, and some of these things can be averted. A woman doesn't need to lose her life giving birth. We've attended burials of women who have actually died as a result of preeclampsia, and it's painful. So financial support towards the activities and outreach programs that we do to enable us to do more and to reach out to more people would be nice.
So I think there are people in the audience, I'm pretty sure, will hear this call and be able to step up and reach out to be able to support where they can. And like you've said, if you can't financially, you can still volunteer. It's a very good cause to be serving. I think I'll stop there because we can talk forever and ever. But at least we've highlighted the key information that women and people, just generally everyone in the society need to understand. Because sometimes, like in your first instance, someone else looked at you and said, I think you should see a doctor, just because there are signs and symptoms. Sometimes you, as the person experiencing them, might not be able to understand how grave the situation is, and yet because you watched this episode or you listened, you're able to say, okay, hang on, I suspect, come, I hold your hand, let me take you to hospital. So I think that in itself will be powerful. If nothing else, supporting the foundation and helping or reaching out to someone who is nearby or near you, it would actually go a very long way. So Ashley, thank you so much for taking the time to join me. I'll share all the information, your personal as well as for the foundation, so that anyone who's able to reach out can do so. As always, please leave a comment. You know very well I respond to pretty much every email and every DM, so please send them in. If you're lost in what the description is, just reach out directly and I'll be able to put you in touch with Ashley. And for me, to the audience, those listening as well as those watching, please share this episode. Remember to subscribe and rate, like, comment, DM, email, all of that. Call to action has to be made. And finally, just saying thank you so much for staying tuned all the way to the end of the episode. And I look forward to seeing you on the next.